I met a Gypsy.
Me and Maddie we're talking about like MotoGP season and the riders and like anyway, we were just sort of saying like, well, it's just not as cool as Supercross, like motocross, Supercross. I mean, every single weekend I've got people from Formula One, MotoGP, World Downhill, like everyone's messaging me like, oh, the race in the race, like everyone's talking about Supercross or motocross. And it's like you've got all these people from all these different walks of life, and they're just like so zoned in on Supercross and motocross. And like I think you nailed it. Like it's just seems like a way cooler sport. I never really thought about the fact that you can change your outfit pretty much every time you ride, but it's got to be something as well. Like we were joking in the car like that they get dirty. Yeah. Like road races, you get to the track, you can wear white shoes, wear a white hat. You know, motocross, that shit don't fly. You know, like you've got to have like a little bit of mongrel in you to like get dirty, eat roost all day, like just not give a fuck. You know.
Yeah. And it's a different world.
Completely different vibe, eh?
Yeah.
And it breeds like at the top level. You see like a different style of dude, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, like my first few days back on the motocross bike, I was like, you know what, there is whoever the front rowers are on Queensland and New South Wales, hitting up in the state of origin, and then there's motocross guys. They're the second toughest. Like it is just like, I was just out there getting dirt thrown at me by a random guy in a 250 or a 450. I'm like, oh yeah, ouch. Like, and like then to think about racing in 30, 40 guys, rocks and lines changing, like
they don't even mention it.
No,
like all of the gnarly shit. I was watching a thing, like a Hayden Deegan interview, and it was just like after the race, still had his jersey on, and like his neck down was just thrashed. There was just like blood and rocks and shit all over this kid.
Yeah,
and that doesn't even come into play. Like if the average person was getting sandblasted for 40 minutes, and you put a microphone in their face, it's the first thing they talk about. But man, fuck, I'm solo.
Yeah, like I always look at say hand guards. Like I've had hand guards in my virtual car every day. They're a little bruise, I'm crying about it. I've never seen anyone use them out of QMP.
Nah.
But then like you see an outdoor where they put hand guards on for the day. Could you imagine what that for them guys to be doing that or wearing an extra chest plate? Like we would just be curled up in a ball. Like I think Kyle Webster at Mayland, was it? It was like he got shot. He got a rock in his arm. Oh, you have to go to Instagram and have a look.
Yeah, find that,
It split him open. And honestly, it looks like someone shot him.
Yeah.
Like, and he didn't really mention that. Like, oh yeah, this had a rough weekend. Oh, got hit by a rock. And like, it wasn't like it was... And that would have been Australian Superbike's main story. The road guys would have been like, I get a bit of rubber flicks off and hits me in the finger in the mid race, and it's geez, give it a bit of a flick halfway down the straight.
And then it's like an article about it, like a photo.
We need the rules changed. It's too dangerous.
Yeah. Did you find it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, legit looks like he got shot.
Yeah.
Fuck. Kyle Webster's probably the hardest vegan I know.
It sure is, yeah. And I've tried that for a few months too. It's hard to be a vegan.
Really?
Yeah, for a few years there I was just every November, December I was all in to do Australian Road Cycling Nationals, which is January.
Yeah.
And mate, you've got to be that lean for that race. So every year, or just power to weight ratio really.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be strong, but you don't need any upper body, or you need to be. The course in Australia, I should say, it's like 3,800 metres of climbing in 160k, 180k, and so you're just doing 5-minute repeats up a climb, so it's just all power to weight.
Yeah.
So every November, December, it was just like, what crash course diet can we go on to try and lean up this year? And one year I tried vegan, and I hung on to it for about 4 or 5 months, and then I think it was a blowout at Macca's one night after a few beers, and
you're just like, fuck it, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't do this to myself anymore.
It was too hard. I don't know how he does it. So, because he's a strong guy. Like, he's a hard man.
Oh,
Kyle,
yeah.
So when the track gets rough and, sand, he's definitely a hard man. So there must be something in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got one of my old coaches at jiu-jitsu. He's been a vegan for like 8 years. He was like vegan before it was cool. Yeah, and he's like pretty jacked, like big sort of dude, and I think after a while, like I think if you really do it consistently and do it properly, But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not for me. I've never even like considered it.
Yeah.
I like meat way too. I could do carnivore
Yeah.
easier than I could do vegan.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, the day before we stumbled across, I think, you know what it was? It was like, remember that, was it a podcast or a Netflix story? It's called Game Changers.
Oh, yeah, bro. I never even watched it. I refuse to watch it.
It got me hook, line and sinker. And so I think my father-in-law had bought this, what's the thing you put the steak in a steel bag and you boil it or something, or it's a few hour process, I think. But anyway, he cooked this steak. It basically fell apart on my plate. It was the best steak I've ever had.
Yeah.
I think we actually watched Game Changer that night.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. I can't be an athlete if I'm not a vegan.
Oh.
And that was it. And that was like around October, November.
It was like perfect timing, like right there for the picking.
And then everyone, I was sort of embarrassed to tell people I was doing the vegan thing because it was clearly only because I watched that show.
Yeah, and you and like every other dude in the world.
So everyone I was just the laughing stock for a few months, and then it faded away, and I hung on to it for a while and promised everyone that I'd never go back, and then here I am eating a steak every night.
So how did it feel when you did it though?
To be honest, the first 6 or 8 weeks I felt really good.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I could eat, so I was eating super healthy, like a lot of vegetables. But then you realise you can get a vegan Magnum or
Oreos,
and then all of a sudden you're just not having anything you should be having. And
because it's
Macca's
vegan,
fries, maybe, I can't remember if that was one of the things.
Yeah,
maybe
probably.
that was a cheat from my end, but yeah, it wasn't. I'm sure it's obviously sustainable for if you do it the right way, but I was probably not dedicated enough to carry on with it. I think my wife actually cracked before me, and she sort of she sits to a pretty strict diet when she's into it.
Yeah.
But she's just like, I guess she was cooking as well, so
yeah,
she's like, you know what? It takes a long time to cook dinner every night, trying to think of what we can eat.
Yeah.
So she bailed out, and then I was a few weeks after.
I think just for me, it was always in my head like the density of food, because I don't like to eat a lot.
Okay.
Like, I'm not a big eater. So for me, I'm like, man, I'd be eating these my size portions, but if you compared the amount of just like, forget what kind of calories, but just calories in that meal versus calories with like steak, potato, like my normal kind of meal, you'd probably be getting half the amount of calories.
Yeah.
So to me, I was just like, and then you'd probably, to get the extra calories, you'd probably just start eating shit food.
Yeah.
But I just feel like for calorie density, like meat is where it's at.
You're right. I reckon that's what I enjoyed about it at the time, because when I'm doing the push bike event, like it's like 4 weeks of 30 hours of riding a week. Like I'm talking massive hours on the bike. Well, that's what I was doing. I probably didn't eat. I don't know. That's what I'd read somewhere on Google that pros are doing. But anyway, you just want to eat all the time because you're burning so many calories. So, and that's what I was finding, like massive big burritos that didn't have that much in them. Yeah. Essentially calorie wise, but you felt like you were getting a lot of food in.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com, packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.